Janet Evans, and I will be chairing this meeting. It is being held via Microsoft Teams, and it is also being streamed live. The committee for this hearing comprises Councillor Rossi and Councillor Benton and me. Councillors, can you please introduce yourself?
Thank you, Chair. I'm Councillor Toby Benton. I'm a councillor for Colville Ward.
Excellent. And Councillor Rossi, are you here?
I think she's on mute.
Hello?
Hi, Councillor Rossi. Can you turn your camera on, please?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, my name is Councillor Marie-Therese Rossi. I represent the Redcliffe Ward.
Thank you. I'm Councillor Evans. I'm chairing this committee and I represent Courtfield Ward. We are joined remotely by Paul Phelan from the council's licensing team, our legal officer, Lindsay Lemessurier. Also with us are our committee officers, Emily Beard and Holly Weaver, who will be monitoring all of our connections and help with any technical issues we may have. Before we start the hearing for this case, just a few ground rules. Please keep your microphones on mute until you are invited to speak, and please make sure your mobile phones are on silent. Do keep your cameras on when not speaking if you wish, unless we run into connection problems. Please note that the Microsoft Teams chat function is not monitored, so we will not be using it. In addition, this is a public meeting and the chat would not be seen by the public. Everyone should have received the procedure for this meeting regarding the use of cameras and how to connect back in if you lose connection. Thank you. The case before us today is to consider an objection from the police to a temporary event notice for 150D Ladbroke Grove, W105NE. Now for declarations of interest. I confirm that I have no declaration of interest to make regarding this item. Do the other members have any declarations to make? Councillor Rossi.
I have no declarations to make.
Councillor Benton.
No declarations, Chair.
Okay. Now the quorum for the meeting is 2. As there is always the possibility that I may lose my connection during the broadcast, I am nominating Councillor Rossi to be appointed as the substitute chair. Members, please confirm whether this nomination is seconded. Councillor Benton.
I second it.
Thank you.
I second it, Chair. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I confirm that Councillor Rossi has been appointed substitute chair. Thank you, colleagues. For clarity, I will outline the procedure of the meeting, which, as already mentioned, has been circulated with the papers and are online. First, the licensing officer, Mr. Phelan, will give a brief outline of the 10. Please, could you confirm your attendance?
Good afternoon, Chair. Unfortunately, I'm still having the same issues with my video feed, so I'll have to remain on audio, I'm afraid. Thank you.
Okay, we'll recognize your voice. Then I will ask premises user, Mr. Ben Harris, to present his submission. He will give up to a maximum of 10 minutes to do so. Please, could you confirm your attendance?
Hello there, I can confirm.
Thank you. Then questions may be asked by members of the committee of the premises user, followed by questions from the legal officer and the police. Next, the police's legal advisor, Mr. James Rankin, will present his objection. He will have up to a maximum of 10 minutes to do so. He is joined by PC Mark Perry, who may be able to assist members should they have any questions. Please, could you both confirm your attendance?
I am in attendance, Chair.
Likewise, I'm in attendance, Chair.
Thank you. After this, then questions may be asked by members of the committee of the police, followed by questions from the legal officer and the premises user. After this, we will ask our legal advisor, Ms. Lemassurier, to deal with any further questions she may have. Please, could you confirm your attendance?
Present, Chair.
Thank you. And finally, we will turn to the governance team to see if any issues have been raised that we need to consider. There will be no summing up and the meeting will end. The committee will then go into private session for 15 minutes to consider their decision. They will then return to announce their decision shortly thereafter. I would like to remind everyone that the committee has read the papers and these papers comprise our main pack, so there's no need to repeat their content. Please do draw our attention to certain points and pages, and governments will move the document on the screen for us. Let's get going. I suggest if you're not speaking, keep your camera off. Mr. Phelan, please can you outline the 10 for us?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Bennett Harris has submitted a temporary event notice to hold a temporary licensable event on Sunday the 25th and Monday the 26th of August between the hours of midday and 7 p.m. each day. And Mr. Harris is seeking permission for sales of alcohol off the premises at 150D Ladbroke Grove, London W10 5NE. The maximum number of people in attendance at any one time has been confirmed as 8 people, Chair. A copy of the notice and plan are attached at Appendix A. This notification has attracted an objection from PC Mark Perry of the Metropolitan Police on the grounds of the prevention of crime and disorder and public safety. A summary of PC Mark Perry's objection is included on pages 6 and 7, with a full copy of PC Mark Perry's representation attached at Appendix B of today's report. Finally, Chair, I can confirm that there are no additional papers in relation to this notice, and that effectively concludes a summary of this notification. I'll leave it there for now. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Harris, please could you present your submission and advise if there have been any amendments to your 10? And please do turn your camera on if you like. You have up to 10 minutes.
Well, first of all, let me thank you all for making the time to address this, and I appreciate the cordial process that that's being taken to consider each party's case. I'm not sure I fully understood the position you'd like me to explain. There's been no amendments from the original application based on the objection which I read from the Metropolitan Police based off of last year's communications, I would say. So I'm not sure if I'm meant to sort of make my case for what exactly happened last year. We had a bar just outside of the same premises that was a roaring success. It actually was the sort of starting event for what we've applied this year, different to last year, is under the company name Swig Services. Last year's success was such that we had the funds to actually invest in our company and run a few events since. But to address the objection specifically, a few things that perhaps might have been misconstrued from the particular police constable that had concerns, because I believe it wasn't PC Perry, but another gentleman, one in particular, who seemed to repeatedly raise issues with us.
Could I say something? I think it would be better that you present this part of your submission after the police make their allegations.
Certainly.
Okay. I think
yeah.
at this point, for guidance, it would make sense if you just tell us what you want to do, how you envision it, how you plan to control it, okay?
Okay. So for a number of years, I've been pretty deeply involved in Ladbroke Grove. I was raised by my grandmother, who was a Jamaican citizen, and I felt very at home with the Caribbean community out in Ladbroke Grove. And so, despite having been a part of the Notting Hill Carnival for a number of years, last year was the first year we took an attempt at I'm not sure if you're aware, but a number of the greatest cocktails ever made all originate from the Caribbean. Everything from the Dark and Stormy to the Mojito and everything in between. And so we had a cocktail-focused operation where we were offering the public premium cocktails made by highly trained staff who I've worked with. I myself am an entrepreneur and have over 10 years experience as a bartender in this wonderful city of ours. Although my voice does, I understand, sound like I just got here. I've been in the UK for 15 years. So yeah, we set up a fully operational cocktail bar operation and had raving reviews from all the local community who really made it a great success over the course of those 2 days. And so the same team this year have come back, and we're really hoping and looking forward to the opportunity to do the same again, whilst addressing any concerns or provisions that we're here to discuss today.
Thank you. Now, any questions from the committee? Councillor Rossi?
Yes, I was just trying to find the right page, but Paul Phelan said in his introduction that you're talking about a maximum of 8 people. So how does that work?
I'll just maybe keep my camera on then. So I went off of the same. I am somewhat dyslexic, so I want to make sure I do understand exactly what the purpose of that was. Last year, the same application was just for the amount of staff that we intended to have behind the bar. And last year, I think we applied for 6. And so I just thought last year we were a little bit on the short staff in terms of service operation speed. And so this year I adjusted it to 8 so that we can just have a very heavily supplied bar for staff. But
okay, so let me just drill down then a bit. So the 8 is just the number of staff you're talking about,
within the
not
premises.
the number of customers.
No, yeah, the customers would just be passing by on the street.
Okay, so you want to have obviously off sales as well as on sales. So that's one thing. Then looking at where you are, you are. How many people would you have on your premises? Which I believe the entrance is in Cambridge Gardens. So how many people would you have there, and how many people would be just passing trade?
So yeah, on premises, it would be a maximum of 8 staff at the sort of peak times. And so passing by, I mean, last year it was just extremely high demand service, as I believe, based on the Met meeting hearing they had last year, they said something like 2.2 million people had passed through the area. And so we must have had hundreds of customers come in and out.
Okay. And so what you are, I can't quite work out, are you off the premises, on the premises? Okay, so basically hundreds of customers. And do you not think that selling at that point, just around the corner from Ladbroke Grove, might be difficult in terms of congestion of people? If people are queuing up to get cocktails or whatever.
So that was a concern raised in advance by, I believe, PC Constable, I believe his name was Gary, really wonderful police officer. He gave me a call in advance and discussed that exact issue. The entrance is about 10 to 15 meters off of Ladbroke Grove. And as you may well know, at about very early in the morning, people come by to offer rental barriers. And so given everybody in my team has a tremendous amount of bar and even security experience, managing of queues really didn't prove to be much of an issue at all when we had a proper sort of barrier system set up. Didn't cause any issues with the flow of people passing through. Understandably, if it had been on Ladbroke Grove, crowd surging is a real issue, which we've seen in previous years. But I can safely say last year we didn't have any concerns and any issues there.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Benton?
Thank you, Chair. So We're hearing that there's been no engagement with the police running up to this 10 application. Is that true?
So last year was Officer Gary who gave me a call.
This year.
This year, is that I'm more just sort of comparing the two because I myself, these are the only two 10s I've applied for.
I understand, but the question is, have you consulted with police running up to this application?
So the reason I mention it is that I had assumed it would be the same process where I would be contacted directly. That I didn't realize it was under our responsibility to sort of reach into them. And based on how PC Gary handled it, it was all very cordial and proper. That I assumed it would be the same this year.
Okay, we've heard that we've been hearing that they've been trying to call you. So you're just not aware of any calls they made or anything like that. Okay.
Haven't had a single.
Okay, we could pick that up later. That's fine. I just wanted to get that from you first. And the other thing is because, and again, this will come up because you are able to ask questions of each other as part of this process. But there supposedly was someone with a mic amplification, which counts as entertainment, attracting customers, so on and so forth. Is that something that's going to happen this year?
No, so obviously that was the single greatest concern that again I'm not aware of the name of the officer who raised those concerns, but this year as a result of those concerns we won't be having any microphone system or to obviously let people know that there is a bar service being provided because with such crowd density the hope was is that we'd be able to make those sort of announcements. But if that is regarded as entertainment, I can understand why that was being objected.
Lovely. Just one short one, if you don't mind, Chair. So I mean, I do understand if you're actually, you actually are serving proper cocktails, that's going to be more of an attraction than most places selling alcohol, at least to a few people. And I'm wondering about. I mean, again, I'm just paying attention to the police representative's statements, who have said that it's quite lucky, or at least not unlucky, that you didn't have any major issues when crowding around the the turnoff nearby. How do you actually have a plan to manage crowds? Because I'm just thinking, well, what if there is at some point a bunch of people who really want, I think I got a dark and stormy from your spot last year, I think.
Brilliant.
But
Bermuda's finest.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, do you have anything in place? What if there is a huge amount of congestion, and how are you going to quickly respond to it if anything? Because these things can come up quite quickly.
Certainly. So two members of the team, also two close friends of mine, are trained security personnel in addition to being bartenders. And so should there be any sort of crowd surging issues, because we set up a barrier system, we're able to queue a considerable amount of people within that zone. Whilst if we're all familiar with the actual corner of Cambridge Gardens and Ladbroke Grove, it's quite a large sort of footprint toward of pavement. And so at no point was there any, it wasn't even, there was crowd surging maybe beyond 10 meters distance from that little sort of nook area. But really there wasn't anything even approaching serious issues. And we didn't need any, nobody from who was operating behind the bar needed to operate as security personnel, although we are ready for that should it occur. As I say, with these two members of staff who are professionally trained security personnel.
Okay, thank you very much. That's the end of my question.
Okay, thank you. So in other words, and the licensing officer can answer as well, you have applied for off sales? Is that correct?
Yes, I believe so. Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct, Chair. That is correct. Off sales only, Chair.
And that is the proper license that he should have. Is that correct?
Providing these sales are to be essentially consumed away from the premises, off sales is correct. Yes, Chair.
Okay. So basically they'll queue, they'll go to the bar, they'll order at the bar, and they'll take their drink in a plastic cup.
Yes, ma'am.
and go.
Yes, ma'am.
And will they be pre-made?
No, everything's made to order. We run a quick service, but a high quality one.
Okay, I would suggest to pre-make them in pitchers or something in order to get jugs and just to move up the flow.
For sure. I mean, so the rum punch, the rum punch is really the only thing that comes pre-made. Fresh is a big aspect with these sort of quality of cocktails. And so, but each drink production time takes about as long as the actual order and charging process. And because different members of staff are handling the transaction, it's all part of one simple flow, so that while, by the time they've actually ordered and paid, a few seconds later, they're being served that drink that was made fresh to order.
And how many, excuse me, how many different cocktails are you serving at one time?
Different, like within the menu, or?
Yes, because you're dealing with lots and lots of people. I think that you should have a management plan, because you don't want people, I want this, I don't want this. You really want fast in and out, and that would help in crime prevention.
So we have a big board that's going to state the menu from a distance. So while they wait in the queue, they can have a very big and visually obvious way of determining what they'll be having to order. And again, last year there wasn't really any concerns with the flow of order. People were, in fact, I must say, we run probably the quickest bar service. I myself work within agency work, so I've worked at over 200 venues around the city, and we ran an extremely fast-paced service last year. It would make any bartender impressed, I'd say.
Okay. And how many shots are in the drinks?
So it's their choice. We offer a half size and a full size. The half is a single shot, and the full size is a double shot.
I see. Okay. Are you having any snacks or crisps?
Yes. So we offer crisps, regular potato crisps, and plantain crisps, given the nature of the occasion.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing beyond that.
Very good. Okay. Thank you very much. Now, any questions from our legal officer?
Thank you, Chair. So I just wanted to clarify, your bar area will be inside the premises, but will customers be coming inside your premises, or they'll just be served to the outside?
Exactly that. They'll be served from the outside onward, so they can walk up to a bar that's just at the entrance of the building, and then their drinks are made on site.
And is the bar situated inside the premises, or is it on the pavement itself?
So we have a wet bar that's inside the premises, so inside the sort of kitchenette that we have there, and then the dry bar where people are placing orders and the drink is being served is just onto the pavement, so that it can, people can come step sort of into the entryway of the building.
All right, so wet bar inside where you make the cocktails, dry bar basically where people are placing orders and they're given their drinks on the pavement outside?
Exactly.
On pavement, okay, that's it. And you also referenced rental barriers earlier on. So are they like Chapter 8 type plastic barriers that you put up alongside the property? So how did you say barriers? I didn't quite catch what you said.
No, yeah, it's I mean, there's a number of different, I'm not sure if it's all one company or it's a few different companies, but pretty early in the morning, around 6 a.m. every year, there's trucks that come about with, probably several hundred stacked onto the back of a large lorry, and have it available for rent to anyone who wants them. So you sort of run out, grab them, and set up your own barriers. And then at the end of the day, they come by to collect them.
So this isn't obviously a council kind of initiative. Right. Is it something is that in your risk assessment plan? Are the council and the police aware that you may be having these barriers outside the premises, and in which direction they're going to be and how wide they're going to be away from the premises?
So I don't think we went into any great detail about the placement of the barriers in particular, but it's the same sort of standard barriers that are being offered to the rest of the community, placed in pretty obvious sort of just in front of that dry bar.
Okay, so I think the police can comment on that when it comes to their turn, because I'll just be interested in what they have to say. That's it for me. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Now, any questions from the police?
No questions, Chair.
No questions, okay. And how many years you said you've been in this business?
So I've been in the bartending business for 10 years, since I turned 18.
I see, okay. Do you realize that with an event of this size, that the main thing is safety?
Almost certainly.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's very important that you do pay attention to those issues, because you don't want a rampage going on. Anyway, so you do understand that.
Most definitely.
The question, okay. Now, for the police's case, Mr. Rankin, please can you present your submission? And please do turn on your camera. You have up to 10 minutes to do so, and turn on your mic, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to do this with the assistance of Mr. Perry. But first of all, we applaud the entrepreneurial spirit of Mr. Harris. Whilst last year might have been a roaring commercial success, from a police standpoint, it was far from a success because of issues that arose as a result of the location of the bar. Now, your policy requires applicants to make their application 6 weeks in advance, and Mr. Harris did not do it 6 weeks in advance. He submitted his application on the 6th of August, and we have made several attempts to contact Mr. Harris without any success, both by telephone and by text, and there has been no response. And the purpose behind the communication was to find out whether there was a risk assessment, whether there was an event management plan, whether there was a detailed site map. None of these issues have been addressed in the run-up to this application. And it's with alarm, I say this, that we hear that Mr. Harris is intent on putting barriers in Cambridge Gardens. Now, it wasn't a PC last year that observed what was going on. It was a superintendent, a senior officer, and Superintendent Rhodes' statement is at page 24. And his concern related to a number of issues. The first was the response that he got from those that were operating the bar. They were operating using a microphone and a sound system located on the flat roof associated with the premises. And it blasted out music and sound. And when approached by Superintendent Rose, those who were running the bar refused to give their names. They refused to turn the music off and ignored all requests to speak and engage with the officer, and that of some concern and regret. It wasn't just one instance. This was over a period of some 3 hours. The location of the bar is, as has been identified in the papers, immediately linked to the Lord Jelly sound system, which is a licensed sound system. And what was observed with the crowds gathered outside Mr. Harris's bar and built into the junction with Ladbroke Grove. Now, Ladbroke Grove, and it's no overstatement to say, is one of the most congested areas on the parade route. And it's absolutely key for the police's purposes that that route to Ladbroke Grove is kept as free-flowing as possible. That was not the case last year, and from what we've heard today, it will not be the case this year if Mr. Harris is granted his temporary events notice. The superintendent remarks that it was fortunate not to have a serious crowd safety incident with all of the consequences that could flow from that. Now, the question of public safety is raised by Mr. Perry, together with the question of an increase in the crime prevention objective. It's no overstatement to say that when large crowds, static crowds, gather, when you've got people exiting from the Lord Jelly sound system, attempting to gain access to Ladbroke Grove to see the parade, whose progress is impeded by barriers and, by Mr. Harris's own account, hundreds of people using his bar, that presents all sorts of difficulties so far as the police are concerned. So that is our case in a nutshell. I've got Mr. Perry here to assist, but he points in his letter of objection, which is at Appendix B, to all of the matters that should have been addressed according to your policy. He points to policies 25.4, 25.5, where it's expected that Mr. Harris would work with the council's events team in order to address the question of numbers and stewarding and risk assessments and crowd control. Having two people that are trained in security serving behind the bar is not, I would suggest, going to address the question of a pressing crowd that is attempting to surge or at least progress along Cambridge Gardens towards Ladbroke Grove. So that's our position. Now, Mr. Perry, is there anything that you want to add?
Thank you, James. I would just add that given the incident last year with the superintendent, what is concerning from the police is that when a police officer, but let alone a superintendent who has authority over a wide area of the carnival, asks someone to turn down their sound system because it is causing a risk of public injury due to overcrowding, and that person then not only refuses to turn the sound system down, but then refuses to engage, is incredibly concerning. I would just add that the applicant last year did not apply for regulated entertainment, yet had a sound system. And we have fears that if they are to operate again this year, they may well follow suit and have a sound system again this year. The other things I would point out as well are that having barriers placed willy-nilly across the road is incredibly dangerous. The route is planned out months in advance. There are studies on crowd flows and crowd dynamics to make sure that we keep people as safe as we can do, especially in the incredibly busy junctions as this is. And to have barriers put up willy-nilly can seriously disrupt that flow and cause a risk of potential injury. We're also sort of deeply disappointed that the applicant, given the interaction last year, failed to make contact with the police beforehand, failed to provide a risk assessment and event management plan, or even talk through what happened last year and how the sort of shortcomings and failings could be prevented. Although I salute, like Mr. Rankin, his entrepreneurial spirit, and I'm sure his cocktails are delicious, the fact is our primary responsibility is to keep people safe. And our belief is that having a system operate, this bar operating, will fail to do that. We believe it will put people at risk and it will lead to crime and disorder. And we do urge you to refuse it.
Thank you very much. Okay, now does the committee have any questions of the police? Councillor Rossi?
I think I have more questions for the applicant. As far as the police are concerned, no. I mean, I just state that it really worries me that last year the people sort of manning this bar did not engage with the police. I find that extremely worrying.
So I think you should turn that into a question, please.
To the applicant?
Yes.
So to the applicant, I have a question, which is, you say that all your bar staff are very experienced. Now, are they the same bar staff that you had last year? Because to me, if someone is experienced and the superintendent is wanting to talk to them, they do not just turn away. So are they the same as last year? And what do you mean by very experienced?
Okay, so yeah, first and foremost, a few things I want to clarify. With this, is a superintendent. I didn't realize was anything other than the other, because we had very multiple positive interactions with the different officers operating throughout, but super certainly had a concern with the amplification system. Yeah, so at no point.
You are breaking up, but my first question is, are they the same staff as last year? That's a yes or a no. Okay, so yeah, the servers are the same, but the bar serving staff are a different set of folks. And that said, I don't believe there were any issues with engaging with the superintendent. I believe that is a false claim. Okay, no, and can I you were, you're denying what the statement of the superintendent now. So okay, that's fine, but what I think you're not understanding, and this I'll try and turn it into a question, is that I don't think the police's only concern was the sound system. The concern was the safety of the crowds in the street on Cambridge Gardens and on Ladbroke Grove. So have you understood that as the main concern of the police?
So not only do I fully understand that, I would actually contest it to say that the superintendent, although superficially was voicing those concerns, the point at which he claims that we stopped engaging was actually the point at which I personally, speaking to him, agreed that we would no longer use the amplification system for anything other than promoting the fact that we were offering like £1. We bought several thousand water bottles. And we did stop using the microphone system for about an hour before someone within the crowd who appeared to be suffering from dehydration came through, bought multiple bottles of water. And I tried to, make clear that the one thing we will continue to use this announcement system for is to promote the fact that we have an excess of water to provide, which I believe is actually in favor of public safety. But when he continually refused to, even compromise on that point, that was the point at which he's claiming we stopped engaging, when in my memory, he chose to stop engaging. And from that point, there was no music, there was no announcements, there was no promotion other than we're selling water for £1, which, as I say, based on the dehydration we had seen, that was a public safety benefit, not drawback.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Benton, do you have any questions for the police?
Sort of, but I think I'm more interested. I mean, it's clear that this is because kind of like a Rashomon situation here. I feel like we're going to have people contesting different people's versions of events. And I suppose my question is the account of that last year's problems, is that solely founded on the report of the superintendent? Is he the only witness statement to speak upon
it? Chair, if you want, I can answer that question.
I'm asking you as to ask the police representative.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, the superintendent was sufficiently concerned that he provided a statement about this, highlighting the risks that he observed and the lack of cooperation that he perceived with the applicant. With regards to anyone else, the way that information normally works in the police is that if someone of a substantive rank, such as a superintendent, makes a report, because they have a wider overview of an area and they have more responsibility, that would be considered more impactful than a statement from a PC or a sergeant. So the fact that a superintendent has actually written a statement, which is a legal document, it's a declaration of truth, that this is what he observed and this is what he experienced and this is what he felt, then that would be sufficient. There would not be anything else. I've not been made aware of anyone else reporting it, but the fact that a superintendent has written a declaration statement should be sufficient from our point of view.
I understand that. Thank you very much. But I do understand that. I just do want to be clear that it is, and it is this one. This is the superintendent who had the interaction. He's speaking about interactions he had himself, and that's the end of it. I'm not contesting. I'm not, how impactful it is or isn't. I just want to know that it's just an account by this one superintendent that we know of.
I understand. Yeah, I understand, Council, and that's absolutely right. It's his statement. In his statement, he does reference other PCs who were under his command that he references in there, but the statement speaks for itself, I would suggest.
Okay, that's my question. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Perry, PC Perry, can you tell me, you said that you or your colleagues contacted Mr. Harris. Can you tell us how?
Certainly, Chair. It was my colleague Sergeant Steve Miles who attempted to contact the applicant. The way that we work in Notting Hill is we have a team of police officers who are dedicated to dealing with it, dealing with the temporary event notices and the planning and organisation. PC Miles picked up this application initially. He's not a licensing officer, so he did the legwork in terms of trying to going through the application, putting it on our system and trying to contact the applicant. Once he failed to get hold of the applicant, it was determined that an objection was going to be put in. I then took over and wrote the review and submitted it along with the documentation and sort of statement. So it's Sergeant Miles who tried to make contact, and as I understand, it was 2 phone calls and a message that was sent, and he did not receive a reply.
Right. Okay. And you said so he also sent a text.
As I understand it, yes.
Okay.
Well, I think message, to be perfectly clear, it was a message. So I don't know if it's a text or not. I don't want to presume something it may not be, but he sent a message.
Could have been a vocal message, is what you mean?
Yeah, it could have been. Yeah, sorry, my understanding was written, but yeah, it could have been left a voice message. But yeah, at least 2 phone calls were made and a message.
But normally, when the police send a message, isn't it no caller ID comes up on the screen?
It depends. So some of the mobile phones we have, the number comes up, and on some it doesn't. I can't say for sure there's a blanket yes or a blanket no, but having left the message, whatever that is, one would have hoped that the applicant would have been able to get back to us. Regardless, when the objection went in, as I'm sure you're aware, is that we would have accepted contact from the applicant then to discuss, but there was none. So we have made efforts to contact. There has been no reply. Is our efforts to contact them absolutely perfect? No, it's not, because nothing is. But likewise, once the objection went in, we have had no contact, to the best of my knowledge, from the applicant.
Okay. So in other words, once the objection went in, Mr. Harris, did you know that you have to respond to that, or you should respond to that?
So first and foremost, I can safely say I certainly didn't receive any contact, and I was expecting to, based off of last year's process, where PC Gary, who I'm sure you're familiar with, was extremely kind and cordial in his process. But I for whatever reason, I never received any voicemail or contact attempts. Otherwise, I would have more than happily obliged. And within the time frame of receiving the objection and having the opportunity to read it in great detail, it was a fairly short space of time between that and receiving the notice of this hearing. So I felt that it would be better addressed through this rather than to make an equally elaborate response to the objection.
That's a very Generation X answer. Okay. Now, any questions from our legal officer?
Yes, just 2. One's for the police. So you haven't received any documents. All you've had sight from the applicant is basically his temporary event notice. There haven't been any other documents at all you've had sight of.
As far as I'm aware, I'm just going back and checking our online records now. As far as I'm aware, all we've had was the application for the 10. I think the council licensing then contacted the applicant and then left some messages on his phone, and then an amended 10 was received. If I remember from looking at the records, that's what it says. It says, I've got an email here from RBKC licensing, which says, please see a 10 received on the 6th of August. We tried calling the applicant to amend the 10, and we just had an updated email from them on the Sunday.
What was the amendment? What was the amendment?
I wouldn't be able to tell you what the amendment is. Perhaps the licensing officers would be able to explain that.
Okay.
I would imagine it was something to in terms of starting times, because I think the starting times and finishing times were the most common sort of like thing that needed to be amended on TENS.
Okay, so but you haven't had risk assessment, no,
No.
event management plan, no contacts apart from that. Okay, fine. Paul, Mr. Phelan, can you just answer me what was the amendment to this application? And the second question is, last year's 10, was it just for off sales? And I think 8 people was mentioned. If you could just clarify what last year's 10 was for.
Certainly. Just to clarify, the amendment received on the 10th of August was to vary the hours to midday to 7 p.m. It also included some photos below to demonstrate the point of distribution. Just for clarity, that's obviously been accounted for in the report that's on the screen today. In terms of the 10 last year, it was for the Sunday and Monday, and it was in particular for off sales only, and for a maximum of 5 people at any one time.
Thank you. That's my only questions. Thank you.
I'd like to interject something here. I don't understand what he's applied for, because are the people, that means only 8 people can order at one time? Can someone clarify that, Mr. Phelan? Do you understand what I'm getting at? He's got a queue out there. Do the people then go to the bar, 8 people at a time, and order and then go?
So just for clarity, sorry.
Janet, the 8 people is the staff. There's nothing about the customers.
Right. So then I don't understand what the license is for. So can you please explain that? Either Mr. Harris or the police or Mr. Phelan, because it sounds to me like the wrong thing was applied for. So I'd just like that clarified, please.
So just to give you that clarity, Chair, in terms of the number of people on the premises at any one time, that also includes staff and, if applicable, performers, for example. So that should give a little bit of clarity as to what the number represents. So it would be staff and those attending to purchase alcohol.
Okay, so you said the number is 8?
Just bear with me for 1 second, Chair. I want to make sure I give you the correct information.
That's what I want to clarify, because if he's got 8 staff, there's no one there, no number there for customers.
So the premises user, Mr. Harris, has confirmed the maximum number of people in attendance at any one time as 8 people.
Right, and 8 of them are staff.
That would be for Mr. Harris to clarify that, Chair, if that's okay.
Mr. Harris, does that mean 8 of those people inside are staff?
So yeah, that's the staff that we'll have on site will be between 6 and 8. We haven't locked in the full list of who we have working for us. That's based on the fact that this is yet to be approved. But given that everything's being served out of a bar that is off site, I didn't think accounting for the variable amount of customers would fall under that number. The only people on site would be staff.
Okay, is that, Mr. Phelan, so this is an off-sales application, correct?
Correct, Chair.
Okay, so since they have to go in and order, is there any, and maybe our legal advisor could answer that, is there any
do you want me to jump in here, Janet?
Yes, I would, because I'm trying to understand if this is the right vehicle for him.
I think a mistake's been made on the application. I think obviously, we don't know the numbers of people that are going to be attending the bar, because it just sounds like people from the street, but a 10 is obviously up to 499 people. So it would have been helpful to kind of put a larger number in rather than 8. But he's obviously based it on the staff. Right. I mean, I'd be interested to hear what Mr. Rankin's view is of that. But obviously, there's other issues just other than the capacity. But obviously, there's been an error on the application. Mr. Rankin, what's your view on this?
My view is probably the same as yours, that you can't amend a 10 once it's gone in. You can up until the moment that the hearing starts, but not once the hearing has started. So he's bound by the 8 people that he has identified in his application, and it's perfectly clear that he intends far more than that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's obviously been an error on the application is the answer to your question, Councillor Evans.
Yes, okay. So,
Chair, could I ask a question or say something now?
a question, yes, not a statement.
Okay, so going back to last year, and you said that you were fine with the police until a certain point, and then he didn't realise that you were giving out water, and that was a good thing to do. So my question is, in a situation like Carnival, which is a massive event with more than 2 million people coming to it, which has months and months and months in the planning, do you not think that a police officer, whether it be a superintendent or what, telling you to do something, that you should actually do it? So what I'm trying to say is, in a situation like this, a big event, who's in charge? Ultimately, it's the police. And do you not understand that that is the case?
So I'd like to start by saying my brother is a police officer for the Thames Valley Police. I have great respect for the police, and I absolutely respect the authority to run and operate the event. I had many positive interactions with multiple officers who they had an operation on the corner of Cambridge Gardens and Ladbroke Grove, and they had many positive and just very positive statements and positive feedback. It was really just the single superintendent who seemed to repeatedly raise issue with the fact that we were choosing to announce over an amplification system, which is of course why we agreed to stop using it apart from the promotion of water. So I fully respect that, and I hope I haven't given any other, any indication of any other thoughts otherwise.
Okay, so now, Mr. Harris, it's your turn to question the police.
I mean, there's questions. Okay, I see. This is a similar thing of no statements, just questions. I fully respect and appreciate that there's such a cordial process to make sure that this is actually being dealt with. It's certainly gone into greater detail than last year's discussions. And I took really the same approach as last year to now see there's very different results. I don't think I have any questions. I've had many positive interactions with the Met Police that operate in Notting Hill, and I really believe that that there's more of a personal dispute between myself and the superintendent that is being recognized within the objection. That clearly he left very unhappy with our refusal to stop using it entirely. When if indeed the primary concern was around public safety, but also the request was to stop telling people that we're providing water, that seems to contradict with his main concern. So I'll close that by saying I have no questions, and I greatly respect what the Met is doing to operate yet another smooth carnival this year.
Thank you.
Chair, may I ask just a further question, just for a little extra clarity? Would that be all right?
Is that Councillor Benton?
That's me. That's Councillor Benton.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So I think I just want to be really clear that what you're saying is, I'm sorry, I'm speaking to the applicant now. What you're saying is that I'm hearing two things which aren't quite the same. One of them is that you did try and engage, but it was in fact the superintendent who at some point refused to engage with you. So the other way around. The other thing you're saying is that it was a disagreement about you think you should be allowed to use the amplification for public, giving out water, etc. And he didn't, and you think that was wrong and all the rest of it, which is, that's a whole other conversation. But those are two things. And I just want to make, are you actually saying that you tried to continue engaging and the superintendent refused? Or are you saying that you had a disagreement about the use of your system, and that's where it broke down?
So that is certainly where it broke down. There was that dispute over his insistence that, we agreed to stop using it for everything. And then after we just were promoting water, he would come back up and again say like, why are you using the system? I told you not to. And I raised the concern that this is actually a public safety benefit, at which point he refused to engage. And I say that where obviously at 7 p.m. when services stop, I still had multiple, positive little, engagements with him in which he didn't really respond but I had thought we left things on fairly positive terms. But based on this objection, it seems like he has held somewhat of a grudge as a result of those. But yeah, it at no point did I refuse to engage, or any member of staff, based on my direction, did we refuse to engage.
But you did refuse to stop using the amplification system, right?
For anything other than water.
No, for anything other is not right. I'm sorry,
right,
just to really dig down on this.
We weren't playing music. We just announced
I understand all of that, but what I'm really trying to get at is you actually did refuse to follow his request. That's just a yes or no. Sorry
yes.
to really needle you on this, but
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. At this stage, I'd like to ask our legal officer if she has any further questions or queries of anyone.
No further questions from me, Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Phelan, our licensing officer, anything to add?
Nothing further from licensing, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. And our governance officers, anything to add?
Nothing from us. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. We've reached the end of this meeting. The committee now has all the information needed, and we will retire to make our decision in private session. We will return to this meeting after 15 minutes to announce our decision. A summary determination will also be sent to the parties within 5 working days, and a full decision will follow as soon as possible thereafter. I suggest, Mr. Harris, that you read your emails. The time limit for appealing the decision will not commence until the full decision has been sent to the parties. We will adjourn for 15 minutes and come back with our decision. Thank you. Thank you,
Chair.
Thank you for your patience. The committee has considered an objection from the police for a temporary event notice, which has been given by Mr. Bennett Harris, the premises user, for the sale by retail of alcohol off the premises on Sunday, the 25th of August, between the hours of 12 to 1900, and on Monday, the 26th of August, between the hours of 12 to 1900, for a maximum number of 8 people at any one time. The committee has considered the committee papers and the submissions made by the parties, both orally and written. In reaching its decision, the committee has had regard to the relevant legislation, the Secretary of State's guidance, and the authority's statement of licensing policy. In summary, the committee decided, after taking into account all the individual circumstances of the case and the prevention of crime and disorder and public safety licensing objectives, to issue a counter notice under Section 105 of the Licensing Act for the event. This notice means permission for the licensable activities requested in the 10 has not been approved. The committee decided that allowing the 10 would, in this instance, undermine the prevention of crime and disorder and public safety. And it determined to issue a counter notice under Section 105 of the Licensing Act 2003. A copy of the reasons decision will be provided without undue delay. If the premises user would like to appeal against the decision, such appeal must be made to the magistrate's court within 21 days from the date of notification of the full decision, but in any event, no later than 5 working days before the start of the proposed temporary event. Thank you very much for your time. And
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, committee.
Thank you to the committee.
Thank
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Joe.